Hi, my name is 𝒊𝒔𝒊𝒏𝒈, and this is Missing Midwest, a true crime podcast about those that have gone missing. Today's story is about a 19-year-old who called his parents for help. When they got there, no one was there. They found his car, but not him. What happened to Brandon Swanson? This is Missing Midwest, and someone knows something. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, you?
I'm awesome.
Ready for episode 6?
Let's do it.
7.
7. We're on episode
7.
7. We are killing it. Let's go.
I'm excited. This is
Yes.
a good one. Before we get started, I was going to ask you, do you know who Rex Heuermann is?
I believe I've heard his name in the news. As a serial killer?
You totally ruined that. I was wanting to tell you who he was.
I've not heard of that name before.
Shut up. Okay. So the 𝒊𝒔𝒊𝒏𝒈 beach murders are in the news right now, and I'm sure you have heard of it. It'd be hard not to hear about it. But so he is a serial killer, and they caught him a couple weeks ago. But what I wanted to talk to you about was how they caught him, because I think it's really...
I do not know how they caught him.
That you don't? Okay, good. So like they had investigated these disappearances of these girls for a while, and they decided to like reopen the case and go back through like a new team, and they were looking through it, and they saw a statement from somebody, and a witness had seen a is it a Chevy Avalanche? Is that a thing? Is that a car?
Yeah.
Chevy Avalanche?
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. An Avalanche in the driveway of one of the girls. And literally this witness just like offhandedly, just like in passing said, like, well, I did see like a Chevy Avalanche at her house the day she disappeared. And so this new group of investigators were like, okay, well, like, let's start there. That's all we have. And they just started looking up people that owned those cars in that area. And they ended up finding a man. He was a businessman. He was married, 2 kids, and he had actually been in like that area. So they're like, wait a minute. Then
And because he owned Avalanche is how they were.
Yeah,
okay.
like because he owned an Avalanche, and somebody reported seeing an Avalanche in her driveway.
Ooh.
That's how they caught a serial killer. So when
Man.
I say like someone knows something, like you might not even know that you know.
That was something.
That small.
It was something, though.
It was something.
It was small, but it was
and
something.
And so like somebody else had reported that the guy looked like an ogre. And he was like a big guy. And so when they looked up Chevy Avalanches, they're like, well, let's just see if there's anybody in the area.
See if there's any Shreks out there rocking an Avalanche.
They started looking through and they found him. And they're like, well, let's see. Well, if you know the 𝒊𝒔𝒊𝒏𝒈 beach murders at all, you know that the killer like made some phone calls to the victims' families, which is, he's a horrific person. Like, what a loser. But, and so they pinged his phone and ended up. And so like as they started digging, they just found clue after clue after clue until they eventually got to hair that they had found on the body's DNA. That
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah. I'll probably do that case eventually because it's one that you've always known about it. The Lost Girls on Netflix is about that case.
We watched that movie. Yep.
Yeah. So he's in jail now.
Man.
Thank goodness. What a crumb.
Man, you know what?
Human being.
I feel like this is a good time to kind of drop a little Easter egg about Murdered Midwest. We're talking about murders and serial killers right now. You're excited about it. You can tell them. Tell the people.
I don't know. Are we going to tell them?
We're telling them now.
I think that we're going to start doing subscriber content for Murdered Midwest. So Missing Midwest will always be free. I will never put that out there, like not put that out there. But so I've had some people asking if we're going to do murdered cases. And the whole point of doing this was because I want to bring attention to missing people. So Missing Midwest will always be a thing. There will be a new episode every single week, but I'm probably going to have like a subscription Patreon. I don't know how we're doing it yet.
I mean, I'm excited about it. I don't know the logistics either.
I have no idea how we're going to do it, but I'm doing
it.
it. Murdered Midwest will be coming at you soon.
Yep. There's going to be some different subscription options. We have merch coming.
I do. I have people wanting merch.
Yes.
I mean, I want a sticker.
Yeah. Look at the beautiful stickers we have here. This
so
art
I want
portrayal.
a Missing Midwest sticker.
That's
for
Bob
sure.
Ross right there.
Bob Ross, cats, and murder are the 3 right here.
There you go.
That's all I need in my
cats,
life.
and murder. My goodness.
So yeah, we're gonna do something. We don't know yet, but Murdered Midwest is gonna be coming soon.
Yeah.
Fall for sure.
Yeah, I would say we can say it's coming in the fall. We've taken initiative to start putting things in place. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So get excited because we're excited.
Yeah, for sure. I can't wait. Listen up. If you're a small business owner like myself, you understand the value of time. There is always something to be done, and it's up to you to do it. Your business is your baby, and you rarely can trust others with it. But what if I told you that I had somebody that you can trust, someone that can save you time and help your business grow? I do. With Bo Digital, you have access to an entire team that will be there for you with marketing and advertising. It doesn't matter what the size of your budget or your business is. Bo can help you take the stress of marketing off your plate and free up your time to do more of the things you love to do with your business. Bo is a marketing company and a business partner, but my favorite thing about them is that they have become true friends. You can find out more about them and what they offer at 𝑏odigital.com. Take it from me and put a bow on it. Well, do you want to talk about today's case?
Let's do it. Bring it.
This is another one. Last week was Brian Schaefer, and I said that's one that's always stuck with me. This is one that when I say Brian Schaefer, I talk about Brandon Swanson, and when I say Brandon Swanson, I talk about Brian Schaefer.
So it's another like mind boggler.
Another mind blowing. You don't know. You get done, and you're like, where is he?
Yeah. Okay, man.
So buckle up because this is a long one.
Buckling up.
It's kind of long. But there's just so many theories, and every single one of them makes you like scratch your head. Okay, so we are going to Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Shout out Connor Elstad, one of my best friends in the world, lives in Minnesota.
He does. We should go see him because I've never been to Minnesota. You went without me, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
Went to a Vikings game. Saw
go.
my guy Kirk Cousins. Hung out with Connor. Good weekend.
So we are going back to May 14th, 2008 in Marshall, Minnesota. Population 13,600. So not huge.
Okay.
Medium. Is that medium, I would say?
That's like meh.
Meh.
It's bigger than
$1
Greentown.
General. So
$1. I was expecting $2.
I do too, but I don't know. I think Dollar General is the further you go out west, the kind of.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Well, just one for you guys up there.
Yeah, sorry. That's kind of sad. $1 General. Okay, so Brandon Swanson, he was 19 years old when he went missing. He had brown hair, blue eyes. He was kind of a smaller dude, 5 feet, 6 inches tall, 120 pounds. His parents were Brian and Annette Swanson. He lived with them. He was very close with his parents. He had one little sister. He was close with her. He was a super smart guy, very nice kid, lots of people, lots of friends. Everyone said he was very fun to hang out with, cool to hang out with. Everyone said he made you think a lot. He always wanted to ask and discuss like complex questions and theories, and he just loved to learn new things and discuss things like that and get really in depth with you. One of those people that just like
respect, yeah,
brought that out, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like he's probably one of those
critical
people
thinker,
that,
man.
like,
We need more critical thinkers.
I feel like you probably like had lots of deep talks around a campfire.
Heck yeah.
Which is a Midwest thing.
It is.
But I feel like he's one of those guys that just like, that's what he would have been doing.
Respect.
So he, like I said, he really liked to learn, and he was going to school for wind turbines and wind energy at a technical school. And he had just got the degree, and his plan was that he was going to finish getting another technical degree in the fall. And then he was going to transfer and go to a 4-year college and like combined all of these degrees to do some like, I don't know, really smart engineering.
Yeah, it's over my head, but
yeah.
I'm glad there's people out there like him.
Yeah. And so that was his plan. We are, like I said, we're on May 14th, 2008. Brandon calls his parents, okay?
Okay.
1:54 in the morning. Can you think of any parents that want to get a call
Nope.
from their parents at 1:54 or from their kid at 1:54 in the morning? So as soon as they answered the phone, he was like, "I'm fine. Everything's fine," which good for him to, you know, ease that fear as soon as they answered. But he's like, "I accidentally drove off the road a little bit on my way home." He drove a green Chevy Lumina. And he's like, "I am stuck in a ditch. I've called my friends. Nobody's answering. And I just like cannot get my car out of this ditch." He had turned down like a back road, and he was trying to do like a little 3-point turn thing, got too far off the road. And I don't know what a Chevy Lumina is, but I don't think it's like an SUV type thing.
No.
I think it's a car. I have no idea.
Cody's looking it up so we don't sound like idiots, but I think it's a sedan, like like a
whatever it was.
kind
It was
of car.
stuck.
Yeah.
So he was stuck on the side of the road, and he's like, "I'm fine. I'm not hurt. I just cannot get like traction on these wheels to get out of this ditch." And so he said, "It's a car." Cody said,
Like a sedan, yeah.
"It's not a sedan."
A sedan is just like a regular car, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm not a
I
car
don't do
person, so
cars.
she doesn't need to trust me when I say stuff. But
Neither of us do cars.
Yeah.
It's fine. Anyway, so it's a car. It's not like this big SUV type thing.
Correct.
And so it's stuck, and he needs help. So I'm sure his parents were annoyed,
yeah.
right?
I mean,
Fair.
I feel like I'd be happy that my kids called me to
I'm
come help
sure they
them.
were relieved that he was okay and that he called them for help. But like I said, no parent wants to get out of bed at 2 a.m.
Right.
But whatever. This is what any parents would do in this situation. They're like, stay there. We're coming to help you. So they left their house, and they never saw him again.
Man. So
I
feel like you have a lot to tell me now.
There is.
Because
So we're gonna go back in that night. We're
Okay.
gonna start at the beginning of the night and what led up to this phone call for you. Okay.
I'm very
give
confused
you some,
at this point.
I know, we're gonna give you some background. So earlier that night, Brandon had left home to go to a party in Lind, Minnesota. Lind was a small city. It was like 7 miles south of Marshall. Just right on a highway, just right down the road, 7 miles south. And so his friends were there, and they reported that he was at the party. He was wearing like some baggy jeans, a blue polo striped shirt, a dark zip up hoodie sweatshirt, and a Minnesota Twins hat, because that was his favorite team, his family said. They said he stayed for a little bit and he was totally fine. He acted normal. They said that he left around 10:30 p.m. and went to another party in Canby, Minnesota, which was in the opposite direction of Lind. I'll post a map of it because you're going to want to look at the map kind of when you see this. So look at our socials because it's going to make a lot more sense if you've seen it on a map. You should have seen me on Google Maps, like mapping this out. So Canby was 40 minutes away from the party he was at and only 30 minutes away from his house. So he had to go back up north to Marshall and then turn west and head to Canby.
So it's 10:30 at night and he's going to a different party 40 minutes away.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's 19, Johnny.
I know.
Or 30. We would never do that, but
Just
kids do that stuff.
Kids.
I don't think that's weird at all.
I guess we would go to like Dirty Dan's at 1 a.m.
Exactly.
It's like 40 minutes away to get donuts.
That's
so
true.
No judgment. Judgment retracted. Go ahead.
Okay, good. So his house was in Marshall, and like I said, if you're looking at the map, so directly to the left, west of Marshall, is the city of Canby, and it's 30 minutes away on Route 68. It's just one road, and you're there. Canby is where the technical school was, so he drove this route all the time.
Okay.
Literally, like from Marshall to Canby, Canby to Marshall, all the time. It was, like I said, just like 30 minutes away. So not far from his house at all. But he was in Lind, which was like 10 minutes from his house. So he's like 40 minutes away from the second party.
Gotcha.
And so he had stayed at this party with his friend, at the second party. He was there till about midnight. His friend said that he did drink a little bit. Nobody really like could come together and like say how much he drank, but like they said he wasn't intoxicated. They only like consistent report was that people saw, like more than one person saw him take a shot of whiskey, like one shot of whiskey. But when he was talking to them and when he left, he was like not inebriated at all. Like nobody had reported that nobody thought like, oh, he shouldn't.
Nobody was worried about him.
Nobody's worried.
Okay.
Yeah. So he did have a DUI from when he was 17 years old, and he was just coming off of like the probation and stuff for that. So everyone said he was like being real careful. Like he wasn't drinking too much at parties because he didn't want to go through.
And this is like May, you said? So like semester's over, cops are out there, everybody's being careful.
Yeah. So he's like, he had to drive home. He didn't want to get another DUI. So they said he really didn't drink that much and he was totally fine. So he was reported. Many people said he was fine. He left around midnight. That was also a consistent report. No one was concerned. Very capable of getting home that night. I will say though, these are like probably like 18, 19, 20-year-old kids.
Sure.
So I don't know how good
reliable.
the judgment
I get
was.
it. Yeah. I mean,
I think everybody thinks you're good.
But I feel like if you just get enough of a consistent story.
Yeah, it was pretty consistent, but again, probably not the best judgment.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone said he should have been able to get home just fine. So the drive home was straight down Route 68 from Canby to Marshall, straight shot. There should not be any turning around or getting stuck in a ditch because it's just a straight shot highway. So he tried to call a bunch of his friends when he got stuck and nobody had answered. So calling his parents was like his last resort. He didn't want to call his parents, but he did. So this is when he got stuck, 1:54 in the morning. He left at midnight, though. So there's a 2-hour window that no one knows what was going on in that 2-hour window. And there's some theories about it. I have a theory. So they're not really sure where he was between midnight and 1:54 a.m. when that phone call came to his parents.
How far away from like the party is this? Is he stuck?
So I'm getting there.
I'm sorry.
Calm down.
Yes, wife.
So this didn't make any sense. They left immediately, and they told him that he told his parents he was 10 minutes away from home, and that he was between Marshall and Lind. But this didn't make any sense because he was coming from Canby, which was the other party. Obviously, his parents didn't realize this at the time because they didn't know which party where he was at. So it's almost like he thinks he's coming from party number 1 in between his hometown and party number 1, but really he's between his hometown and party number 2. So his mom and dad, they drive directly to the spot that he tells them at. He's like, I'm right here. I'm on the side of the road. I'm on the side of Highway 23, which Highway 23 is the road between Lind and Marshall. And he said, I'm right on the side. I tried to turn around on the side road. This is way out of the way from Route 68, which is the road he would have been coming home, like coming from the party on. Party number 2. Like he would not be on Route 23 by Lind.
In that 2-hour window, did he go back to the first party?
Could have, but there's no reports of him coming back.
Huh.
So his parents are like driving. It's like a 7-mile stretch of highway between their house and Lind, and he's told them like I'm between Lind and home. So they're driving up and down this highway, and they're like, we don't see you. They're like, hey, what?
Honk, flash your lights.
Are you sure that you're here? And he's getting frustrated with him, and he said, yes, I am. I'm right here. Neither of them, see him, and so they're like, hey, why don't you flash your headlights at us? And like, so we can see, maybe you're off in the ditch further than we thought, and we passed you. And so his mom reported like she could hear him like flicking his lights.
Yeah.
And they never, like, they couldn't see him.
Interesting.
And so they started flashing their lights.
I'm very confused too.
Yeah. And so they're like, Brandon, like, we don't see you. And he's like, well, flash your lights. And they do. And he doesn't see them. And this whole time he is just like insistent that he is on Highway 23. And so he's getting super mad. Probably, teenager, he thinks his parents are just dumb. They're in the wrong spot. They can't find him. And so he actually got mad and hung up on them. And so Annette, his mom, she immediately called him back, and she's like, Brandon, like, I'm sorry. Like, you need to calm down. We're trying to help you. It's 2 a.m. We don't know where you are.
Voice of reason.
Yeah,
Mom coming in with the voice of reason. Dad's back there like, he can walk home.
So they're like, okay, like, calm down. We can figure this out together. Let's just take a deep breath. Like, you're obviously somewhere. We're going to find you. And so finally Brandon is like, okay, listen, like, I can see Lind through, like, I can see the lights from the town. So I'm just going to walk there. And he said, you can pick me up there. And there's a bar. And I looked it up too, like on Google, like if you were walking from Marshall to Lind, like one of the first parking lots that you get to on the outskirts of town right there is a little bar. And so he's like, I'm just going to meet you in that parking lot.
Okay,
so like he was with it enough to know, like,
landmarks,
the landmark, and like, this is where I'm going. It was literally the closest place that they could have met.
Sure.
That they both,
like in Greentown, there's a restaurant called Hometown right at the end. You could be
so
like,
he's
I'm
like, his
walking
parents knew where this bar was. He knew where this bar was. He's like, since we can't find each other in the dark, let's just meet here.
Okay.
And they're like, okay, like, let's do that. Obviously they didn't love the idea of him walking, but it wasn't working.
Sure.
Trying to find each other. So he starts walking to Lind, and he's talking to his dad on his phone, and his dad is like, listen, you need to stay on the phone with me the whole way because I don't love you walking.
Sure. Fair. That's fair.
Which, great idea.
Yeah.
So he's walking to Lind, and he's talking to his dad, and he's doing this the whole way there. And so Brian took Annette home, and he went to meet Brandon at the bar. This whole time, Brandon is on the phone with him, which was smart. So Brandon's walking to Lind, and he's telling his dad, like, where he's at, what he's doing. And at some point in this conversation, he's like, this feels a little dangerous to be walking on the road. So I'm just going to like cut through this field because it's quicker to go that way. I can see the lights through the field. It'll be quicker. This doesn't make any sense because when you look at Google Maps, like, it's a straight shot on the road. Like, going through a field wouldn't have taken you directly to Lind. So that didn't really make any sense.
Did his dad pick up on that?
Yeah, his dad was just like, he didn't really know exactly where he was. It didn't really appear to be a shortcut to him, but like Brandon was still very insistent that like he could see Lind and he was walking directly there. And so he was like talking to his dad. Like I said, his dad's a little bit confused, but he's still talking to Brandon. Brandon's like, I'm getting there. Okay, so he told his dad, like, hey, like I'm at a fence, I'm gonna have to jump over it. And then he also told his dad he could hear running water, which also doesn't make sense because there's no water near Lind. And so all of a sudden, so he's talking to Brandon for a while. I think they said the phone call was like 47 minutes of like from when he decided he was gonna, they couldn't find each other. He's gonna walk to Lind, take mom home, come back to Lind, like hear the water, all this stuff. Like 47 minutes they were on the phone together. Then
you can walk almost 3 miles in 47 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just thinking like that's a long way if he was that close.
Yeah, and he's like going through fields and stuff. So all of a sudden, Brandon's dad hears Brandon say, "Oh shit," and then just he stops talking, and he's like, "Brandon," like, and he didn't answer. Now the phone did not go dead. The line was still open, but he just stopped talking. And so this is where it gets a little confusing here. There's different reports. So like I said, some of the reports say that Annette went home. Some of them say they didn't. I think later Annette has came out and officially said like she was there the whole time, which was a little, some people think that's really like kind of suspect that like she said she wasn't there and then she was. But Annette did declare like a few years, like she has said since then, like I was there the whole time. And so that's the one like point of confusion in the whole thing. But Brian and Annette,
that's weird.
It is weird. And I think it's just the different, like in the beginning, there were so many reports and it was so much confusion, which you're going to hear in a minute why it ended up getting so confused in the beginning between Annette and Brian and the police. And so I think it was just different reports. So honestly, like I read that she was there. I read that she wasn't there. I think she was there because she's so insistent on her reports of like her and Brian talk and what they heard. And she says she heard Brandon say, "Oh shit."
Which means that she was there for...
Yeah, so I think she was there. Regardless, Brian, the dad, he's like, I'm talking to my son. He says, "Oh shit," the line. And so the line stayed open. And they're like, did he drop his phone? What happened? So they hang up the phone call and they call him back because they're thinking if he dropped his phone, it's going to ring and he might be able to help him find it.
Sure.
Or maybe it'll light up.
At that moment, you're just like, what the heck? Trying to solve the problem.
And so it never... It rang, so it wasn't dead, but he never picked up again. And so Brian and Annette are freaking out, and they start driving all over. They're looking for him. They're calling friends, calling family, and ended up a whole bunch of his friends came and joined them, and they were looking all around between Lind and Marshall, all around, and they never found anything. And so at 6 a.m., Brian and Annette go to the Lyon County Sheriff Department and officially report Brandon as a missing person. They told him as soon as they said he was 19, the sheriff was like, yeah, he can do what he wants. Like, he's 19. And, like, honestly, to that, I just have, like, all I have to say is...
I mean, he's, like, lost in the wilderness right now.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
this isn't a runaway or kidnapping.
No.
This is, like, he is in danger by the elements right now.
I cannot even imagine being a parent and your child, the last thing you heard them say is, first of all, they called you for help in the middle of the night. And you're on the phone with them. Clearly, they're lost. And he says, "Oh, shit," which to me is a term of, like something's wrong. And this sheriff is like, "Yeah, he's 19. He can do what he wants." Like, oh, no, I hate that.
Oof, I have so many thoughts. What happens next? Tell me.
Yeah, So, like I said, 6 a.m., they are...
Go to the police.
Yeah, they're at the police station. This sheriff is basically like, yeah, sorry. But to me, and honestly, what I have to say that is like, this is a small town. What else, sir, do you have to be doing right now?
You only have $1 general to watch.
Right? Like, what if it's nothing, it's nothing. If he's truly missing and something's wrong, you have a small window of time to save him. So why waste it? Because you have what? Like one stoplight to walk or something? I don't even know.
Yeah.
So I was, not happy to hear that. I'm sure they were even more unhappy to hear that. Like I said, I can't even imagine. So they didn't help right away, which is time lost.
Yeah.
And is not okay in a missing person case.
No.
Ever. Everyone knows that time is like the most crucial thing in any missing person case. So hours passed before they literally convinced the police to do their job. And so they finally started searching around noon that day. And they started with Lind, in and around Lind, which is where Brandon, said he was at. And they found nothing. And so the sheriff of Lyon County decided to, work. And he got the cell phone data from Brandon and was like, we're going to track him.
Ping the towers or whatever.
We're going to track him, see where he was at when he called you. Great idea. Thank you, sir, for doing what you are supposed to do. But what they found was that the cell phone, not even close to Lind. So that whole time.
Well, I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
That whole time they were looking, he was not where he thought he was, which I think was, it's pretty obvious. He was actually by Taunton, which is a town on the way home between Canby, the party he was at, and Marshall, which makes sense. He was in Canby, he lives in Marshall. Taunton is a town in between the two on Route 68. Totally makes sense because Canby was his last party.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's about 13 miles away from Canby, back in the direction toward his house. So literally right between the two. 15 minutes away.
Back to the timeline of the party. In a 2-hour span, he's gone, what'd you say, 13 miles away from the party?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait a minute.
We have
here. Wait a minute.
So we have 2 hours unaccounted for and only 13 miles that he covered. So there's a lot of theories about that too. We'll get back to that.
And he has no freaking clue where he is.
What?
He has no clue where he is.
Yeah, he was lost. Yeah.
Because, he was telling his parents that he was... he clearly believed that because he was mad at him for not seeing him on the road he thought he was on.
Exactly.
So he has
he had no
clue.
idea. He was lost.
Wow.
He was definitely lost, which is very unusual because he lived there and he drove that road every day to go to his college. And, it's like Greentown. We grew up. I know every back road in here in Greentown.
We've spent our whole life in a 50-mile radius. Yeah. Sounds like he was kind of the same story.
And so... they also found a ping on his phone in Minneota, which, sidebar, Minnesota is the coolest name ever. So if we're ever in Minnesota, I want to hit up Minnesota, just so I can say that. So I assume that ping happened later on in the phone call with his dad. So at first it pinged in Taunton, and then the second one was in Minneota. So I assume Minneota is the lights that he saw, and that's what he was walking
Maybe,
toward.
yeah. Like I said, in a 45-minute conversation, you can walk 3 miles. You can change towers.
The phone data showed he was moving.
Yeah.
So he started in this city and he moved.
Wild.
And if it makes sense, because if you look at Google Maps, there's an ever so slight bend in the road between Taunton and Minneota, which means he would have in his mind been hey, if I cut through this field, it's going to be quicker.
Yeah.
And there's also a little river, the Yellow Medicine River is right there in between them too. So now they're okay, this is where he was.
Tell me
he just
more
got
here.
Turned around.
Tell me more. I want to know what.
Yeah. And so around 12:30 that afternoon, they went to Minneota because of the ping, and they found his car. It was in a ditch between Taunton and Minneota, and it was right off Route 68 on the side of a gravel road called Lyon Lincoln Road. It still doesn't make sense why he got off Route 68 in the first place, because it was a straight shot to his house.
How far off of 68 is he?
Right off. They said it wasn't very far at all. And so it's like he took a wrong turn and then tried to turn around to get back on Route 68. So... like I said, so it didn't make sense. He was obviously confused on where he was at because he was not between Lind and Marshall. It was Canby and Marshall. So his car was completely fine. No damage, no blood. Also, there was no tracks. This is just something else that's just great. So there were no tracks. It was a gravel road, but there were no tracks leading to show which direction he went from his car, because that morning they had graded the road. So thank you, Sheriff, who didn't get your butt in gear and start searching, because if he would have been able to go search that morning and they would have pinged it and found his car before they graded that road, they might have been able to see
at least where he was going.
Yeah, exactly. So now they don't even know which direction he went.
Or the people grading the road could have been hey, there's a freaking abandoned car here.
Yeah.
Is that ringing any bells?
Yeah. And so... that's a really good point, because if they graded the road, they
were all annoyed. The people that graded that road were annoyed that there was a random car stuck in a ditch right there.
Yeah, I wonder if anyone said anything about that, because they said that the doors were. Let me read the wording here.
My guy Cody's showing me the map here.
I should have pulled the map up for you. It's so good. So do you see?
Did you put this right here? These little boxes? Oh, she did? No. Oh, you just looked it up. Okay.
Yeah. And so you can kind of see where we're at here. So is this Marshall right here?
Yes.
And then down. And
Marshall and I'm looking at it.
Here and he was here. Yeah.
That's a huge discrepancy.
Exactly. So like I said, the gravel roads, they had been graded. But I will say they said that his doors were open and the keys were gone. And that was on the FBI website. So I'm wondering if the doors were open, I assume because the people that grate the roads are going to be like city employees or like, you would think that if they saw a car on the side of the road with the doors open, they would have reported it.
Yeah.
So I wonder if the car wasn't even there when they graded the roads that morning. Like, what if somebody moved the car there?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like
That's a really good point.
I feel like those people that were grading the road could have been like, is there anybody sleeping in here? Open the door and be like, nope, I'm not touching anything else. Just left the doors open.
Yeah, but even then, as a city employee, you would think they're like, hey, if you see something suspicious, you have to report it. Like, anyway, so his parents said...
This whole thing is just bonkers. All right.
It gets even freaking weirder, John.
Tell me more.
So inside the car, they find his glasses, and he was legally blind in one eye, and they are just sitting on the passenger seat. Not broken, just sitting. I also questioned, too, the FBI website said that the doors were open. Like all of them or just one of them? It didn't specify. I just imagine if you found an abandoned car with all of the doors open, somebody would have...
So he was driving without his glasses on. Or he drove with his glasses on and then decided to walk 3 miles with his glasses off.
Either one makes no sense.
No sense.
So I did read a comment on Facebook that said if a lot of people with eye issues, which I can attest to this, like driving at night, sometimes it's harder to drive with your glasses on than it would be off, especially if one eye is messed up. So like some people were saying like, yeah, sometimes like I'll take my glasses off at night with like stigmatism and stuff like that. Like maybe he did that or something. But if you did that, wouldn't you put him back on to walk through a field?
Yeah.
So anyway, so this entire time, his parents have insisted that he was acting just fine. They said he never slurred his words. He seemed to be completely with it. They said, it was their son. They knew him, and they said he was fine. Like nothing seemed off with him at all, other than the fact he was insisting he was one place and they couldn't find him in that place.
I was going to say, that's enough for me to be like, something else is happening here. He's disoriented.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So anyway, they're like, okay.
Tell me more.
Here's his car. Let's find him. And so they bring in everything. Dogs, ATVs, helicopters, just all of everything. They bring out, they hold nothing back. They're like, we're going to find Brandon. So the dogs picked up a scent from his car, and they followed it from his car for 3 miles.
Which makes sense.
That's what you said.
Come on now. Wow. I want a little badge and stickers. Come on.
What?
Talk to me.
So they followed his car. I'm so impressed actually right now.
You heard her.
Good job. So the dogs followed this scent for 3 miles, which apparently equates to 47 minutes, from his car into the fields, through an abandoned farm, which, no thank you. Abandoned farm to me says absolutely, I'm going to go around that. And then they went right to the Yellow Medicine River. Right to the bank of it. And they indicated that he went into the river. The dogs did. They're like, he went into the river. However, don't make that face. They picked up his scent on the other side of the river, on the other bank. So they picked it up on the other side of the river, coming out of the river, went a little ways and lost it completely. So that means he crossed the river. So they searched the whole freaking river. Even though the dogs indicated that he came out of it, they searched the entire thing, and they found absolutely no evidence that he drowned in that river.
Wait a minute.
The investigators say there's actually almost no possible way he drowned in the river because they would have found the body by now. They said that they searched it so much, and it just wasn't like a huge river. It read online that it goes anywhere from like 2 feet to 15 feet deep. They said that he probably crossed it because the dogs found him going in, and then they found him directly across it going out. But they said like absolutely no evidence of drowning. Like they said, they are very confident in saying he is not in that river anywhere. So they think he probably fell in and then got out, or crossed it and got out on the other side on purpose. But they haven't found him. No phone, no evidence. It literally makes no sense.
What year was this again?
2008.
I mean,
so the cadaver dogs indicated that there were human remains near Mud Creek, but they never found like anything. And like they're not looking for remains. It's a whole body. It's been one day. So like
there's a lot left.
Yeah. And so they looked like this every single day. Dogs, helicopters, horses, ATVs for an entire week. They brought out everything for this, and they held nothing back for this search. It was one of the biggest searches in Minnesota for a missing person.
This is like the most head scratchers that I've like ever heard in a situation.
So after a week, they called off the search, but his family and friends and volunteers did not stop searching. They had many, many organized searches, and they found nothing. I read through, so there's a blog. It's let me see what it is. The search for Brandon.blogspot.com, and they documented every single search. Like today we had this many volunteers, this many dogs, this is the area, like this many square miles, every single one. And like they were so thorough. Nothing.
I mean,
yeah, rough. So in the fall, so they searched all summer long. So in the fall, investigators, the police, they pick it back up. And they're like, we're going to, like, it was never closed, but they're like, we're going to start our searching again. Like, the spring has passed, water levels, everything's different. So they, like, they brought in the cadaver dogs again. They picked up a scent northwest of Porter, which is another little town on 68 there. But then they lost it. And then after that, the search was suspended due to wintertime. They searched another 122 square miles with 500 volunteers, again in the spring with dogs. They brought in dogs from like all over, like tons of states, found nothing. In 2010, it went to the Minnesota Bureau of Investigation, and they took it over and they started a search again. And they had, like, they would go out and they would pick up scents and then they would die. And then they'd pick it up again in another spot and then it would die. It was just like so weird.
I mean, I'm like 100% confident that like bodies do not just disappear.
Exactly. But that's where they're at. Like that's it. Like they never found anything. They never heard from him again. No phone, no evidence of anything. Tons of searches have happened. They've never turned up anything. The scent, like I said, the dogs will pick it up and then lose it, and then they'll go over here and pick it up and lose it, all over, like scattered, all through the countryside, fields, everything.
We gotta start getting into some theories here because I'm just taking notes over here on all of the things that don't make sense.
Nothing has been found to suggest he's dead, and nothing's been found to suggest he's alive. It's just, I mean, nothing. So there's so much to unpack here.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
tons.
there is.
So, this case, like I said, this case just lives rent free in my head all the time.
I mean, I'm not sure I'll be able to think about anything else all week. Like,
you know what's stressful? Buying and selling a house. Just over a year ago, we were in the middle of the process and it was overwhelming. I am so thankful that we had someone like Amber to guide us through the process. She knew what to do and when to do it. You were so concerned about pricing and loans, and I was just concerned with the colors and the layout. Oh, you remember that?
Yes. Amber kept everything in mind, and we are in our dream house because of her. If you are looking to buy or sell in or around the Howard County area, you have to give Amber a call, or you can just give her a text at 765-865-1118.
You can follow her on Facebook at Amber White, Realtor/Broker with Carrie Gruhl & Associates. She posts the latest listings, giveaways, and even helpful home tips.
We are so grateful for Amber and all her help.
So what are your thoughts? Let's just go through. I have my thoughts. Do you want to go through yours first? You want to go
Sure,
through mine?
I'll go through my notes real quick.
Maybe I can answer some of them.
Yeah, I think there's no chance that drugs aren't involved.
Okay.
No chance. I think in that 2-hour window where he only traveled 13 miles, he made another stop, and there has to be some drugs at play here.
Okay.
For him to think he's completely on the other side of a city, like convinced,
Okay.
like he is disoriented. I'm not even saying drunk. Like it sounds like he is coherent,
Okay.
but extremely disoriented.
Okay.
I think drugs are at play.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think, and
I disagree, but we'll talk about it later.
I mean, I also think that the mom thing is a weird thing to me. Hey, we took her home, but we didn't actually. Why would you say that at all?
I don't think it's that weird.
I don't understand why that would even, like, if it didn't happen,
Okay,
why would you
go on to the next one because I'll just address yours when you're done.
Okay. I'm just
So you think drugs and then you think the weird thing with the mom. What's the next one?
I'm just saying, like, I think there was something in the phone call that would like have caused some grief to where it was like, okay, well, I'll just take your mom home to get him to stop thinking about that or something.
Okay.
So there's strife here in this conversation.
Okay.
And then like, you know, when you were telling me this and it was like, oh, he dropped his phone, like call went dead. I'm thinking like passed out.
Call
I'm
didn't
thinking,
go dead.
I mean, or
They hung
he
up.
stopped talking.
He stopped talking. Yes.
I'm thinking like, you know, he passed out. Something happened to him, you know, whatever. The fact that he crossed the river, like he was coherent after that phone call ended, I believe.
Okay.
That's a mind-blowing thing to me.
Okay.
Like, unless his parents are like, yes, he said he's crossing a river in the phone. I know he said something about running water.
You said he could hear water, yeah.
But like either okay, let me put it this way. His body crossed that water after that phone call ended.
Okay.
So whether it was he was doing it on his own volition or not, it happened after. That's crazy to me.
Okay.
The fact that his body is not in there anymore, like they can't find his body after all this time.
Yeah.
He either booked and did a very good job, or somebody got him and killed him.
Okay. So let me address yours first.
Bring it.
Drugs, I don't think so.
What makes? Tell me about the 2 hours.
Here's
then.
what my
We're gonna
theory
argue
on
right
the
here in front of all of you.
My theory on the 2 hour thing. You ready?
Yeah.
I'm thinking concussion. I think, what if he went in that ditch? It doesn't, concussion, heads are weird.
Okay.
It doesn't take much for concussion.
Okay.
What if he hit his head? There was no damage to the car, but what if he hit his head just right? And when he woke up, it was 2 hours later and he's like, oh crap, I'm in a ditch. I'm going to have to call my parents for help. And, you know, there are people, I've seen people with concussions, and I'm sure you have with football, that they might seem okay, but they're just not making sense with what they're doing.
I hear you. That is okay.
I don't have a lot of experience with concussions, but like
I've seen some wild stuff with
he
concussions.
might have been like just enough to be, like you said, disoriented.
Yeah.
To think, you know, maybe he lost that amount of time with the second party, and he's like, I was on my way home from the first party.
That's a great argument.
That's
my question,
my
my argument to that though is, why did he get off 68?
Like on the side road?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to it. I'm just saying this is my theory. So I don't think drugs were involved because, I don't know. I think he would have had to, I don't really have a reason. I just don't, because nobody saw him do drugs, and his parents said he never really did drugs. Like, they never knew of it anyway. His friends said he wasn't into drugs, so I don't know.
I mean, it's not like we have a
Second-
body to be like, yeah, there's a head injury here.
So
Good.
second,
It's a good theory on your part.
And your second thing was the phone thing with the mom. Okay. I do think it's strange. However, hear me out. I don't think it's a necessity to the case. Like, these parents, you have two very worried parents
I
in the
absolutely
middle
hate
of the
calling
night.
parents out in this situation. Like, I don't like that this bothers me, but it does.
I know. But I'm saying, like, there's so many reports of it. And, like, the mom literally came out and was like, no, I was there. Like, we maybe they thought about taking her home, and then she changed her mind. And you know how somebody reported it this way and somebody reported it that way? Like, I don't think it really matters.
I have a lot of grace for that.
Yeah, I don't think
It's weird to me, but I have a lot of grace
It is
for it.
weird that there was like a conflicting story, but I don't think it like really matters to the case.
I'm with you.
Okay, and
I'm not in any way suggesting there was
no
foul play
no,
from the
no,
parents. It's just a weird thing I don't like.
And then what was your last thing?
The fact that his body crossed the river after the phone call ended.
Yeah, so I think my theory was the line, they said it didn't go dead. I think if he would have fell in the water, wouldn't you have heard it on the phone?
Yeah.
right?
Or you would have heard him like yelling help or splashing or something.
I don't know. I think he would have heard a splash or something. So I don't think he fell into the water. If he just dropped his phone, I feel like they would have found it.
Yeah.
Right. And then my other theory, the concussion is my lost time. I think there might have been a concussion for the lost time. That's my theory for that. But yeah, I don't know what happened on the 2 hours between that. I do have a theory for why did he turn off 68 though?
Let's hear it.
A lot of his friends have said that they think he took the back roads to avoid getting pulled over. Because he had been drinking and he had a DUI. So they think he might have taken a couple back roads home to avoid 68 because it was the main road.
Okay.
So I think that's a good one.
Okay.
That's a good reason.
And
So
then the concussion thing, I mean, I
the
can
concussion thing is
track.
my theory.
So again, though, it gets us to this place of like his body traveled after that phone call ended.
Yeah.
Because like when I heard this, when you told me the story at first, I'm like, crap, he's still out there somewhere. Like he dropped somewhere.
Yeah. So I'm going to get into the theories of
Okay.
like investigator theories and the people that live there and like what actually, like we're going to dig into like what actually truly could have happened. And then at the end, we're just going to have to pick which one you think happened.
Yikes. All right.
Because there's no answer. Like
We
missing
haven't found
we're
them.
missing Midwest here.
15 years.
Brandon Swanson is still missing.
Yeah.
Okay, so first one, can't rule it out. He left, picked up his life, left. I think that's easy to, say no to. Like, he had a great, his life was normal. It was a good life. He had a plan for college. He had family. He had friends. Also, he called for help. I don't think you'd call your parents if you were trying to disappear.
Yeah, I mean, you got like a great head start here at this situation.
Yeah, so
You know what I'm saying?
I'm easy to rule that one out. But again, you can't fully rule it out. But for me, that one's
It's
out.
out. I'm out. I'm out on he ran
Second
away.
one, he fell into the water. Totally possible. But I think if he did, he got out. The dogs they said that. They got the scent on the other side. And the
Dogs are smarter than us.
They are. And the investigators have said they don't believe that one at all. But you all...
I'm very much out on the river plan.
Me too. But you can't fully rule it out either because there was a river and somebody's missing. So
Yeah.
Another popular one was an animal attack. I didn't even look up what wild animals they have in Minnesota, but I read about possibility of being an animal attack, but they found no evidence of an animal attack, so I rule that one out as well.
I feel like if there's a wild animal attack, you would have heard something after he dropped the phone.
Yeah, because the line didn't go dead, so that's one reason to rule animal attack
Also,
out.
I think
And
you would have found in the searches that happened immediately after. I think
clothes, dogs would have picked that up.
Yeah,
and
for
found
sure.
that. They would have found, blood, clothes,
yeah.
something. So I can rule that one out.
I ruled that out absolutely.
Do they even have wild animals in Minnesota? I don't even
100% yes.
I know they do, but like, what? What's the...
I mean, I'm sure there's like
I need to know.
big predators out there. Cody's on it. I can tell.
Do they have bears
again,
there?
there would have been a trail left.
Exactly.
There would have been blood.
This
There's no chance the dogs missed all of this.
Me knowing what wild animals are in Minnesota is just not a necessity.
Oh, Cody has a list. There's 100 animals in that list.
a moose, a white-tailed deer,
I'm never trying to fight a moose.
coyote, a river otter, a gray wolf,
I'd fight a
black
coyote
bear,
before I
a
fought a moose.
bobcat, a raccoon, a cougar. That's about all that could have. Yeah, he didn't. No wild animals.
There's evidence left though.
Yes.
The
So there was
animals
no
aren't covered.
wild animal evidence. So I'm moving on. So that was number 3. Number 4.
I'm completely out on the
crap.
first 3.
This one seriously unlocked a new level of nightmares for me. Okay.
Oh boy.
Have you ever heard of a cistern? You know
Is that
what a
like when
cistern
the
is?
ground opens up? or-
That's a sinkhole. Which, did you know Minnesota is like the sinkhole like capital of the world? There's like a town there that's like full of sinkholes. Anyway, fell into a cistern.
Is it Minnesota?
No.
Yikes.
It's not far though.
Really?
It's not far from. I think they said it was like 40 miles away. There are sinkholes there. However, a cistern is like this old, like a well, an underground well, and like people thought like he could have fallen into one of these. And when I say well, they're like 100 to 150 feet deep. And if you Google people falling into cisterns, it's a whole thing. Like people do it and like disappear and like can't get out, or they find them and they can save them. But like falling that far down, they usually don't make it. But some people have been saved from it. But like whole cows and like horses have fallen into these things. And I was in my head, I'm like, how do you miss a hole in the ground? But like when you Google it, they're like completely like covered up, it like with overgrowth and stuff from like being outside and just like wind, like grass blowing over and laying over and just debris. And like it's a whole thing. People just are walking and fall into these things.
I'm out.
I was out on this one too until I Googled it, and it's a very real possibility for me.
I'm convinced his body traveled after the phone call ended.
But the cistern thing would give you a reason why the phone was never found. That was my thing.
I mean, but see, the thing is,
and his keys were gone. So
I feel like they would have heard on the phone call.
It was farmland, so they're probably out there.
I'm out.
Okay, you can be out on that one, but I think that's a decent possibility.
I'm out.
Number 5, stranger abduction. Doesn't seem likely, but you can't rule it out. And I do not love that we've never found a body. Like, I think another human being has to be involved for there not to be a body.
I'm 100% on team foul play here.
Okay, so I think if he died accidentally, like from a cistern or falling into the river, or even like another theory is hypothermia, which I'll get to that in a second. You would have found a body. And so I think you would have found evidence or a body unless there was another human involved. And so that's what I'm thinking. Like, I don't...
100%. I think another human being's involved in the situation. I did not think we were going there. I did not think that's where this was going to go. Like, when you started telling me the story, I'm like, he's going to get lost in the wilderness. He's going to run away. And then, like, now I'm...
So the next one, or the next two, actually kind of go hand in hand with the stranger abduction. Another, like, one of the most popular theories is that he died from exposure. He fell in that water, obviously, because they got a scent on either side of the river, and it was under 40 degrees that night. And so thank you, Bear Grylls and Alone, for telling me that, like, wet clothing is like the worst thing that can happen to you when you're in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Apparently, like, it causes hypothermia. Like, I think people think hypothermia is like, you know, when it's negative 32 degrees out, but it's not. Like, it can happen really quickly.
Being wet is worse than being cold.
Being wet and having wet clothes on your body is like one of the worst things that you can do, and it can happen within like an hour. And so a lot of people think like hypothermia, like wet clothes just speeds it up. And so they said, like, even if he would have fallen in, fell like, oh shit, fell in the river, got out of the river on the other side, lost his phone in the river, and then he's out and he's wet, and then he's wandering through there, which he's obviously disoriented for some unknown reason. He wanders around and ends up succumbing to his injuries.
I'm out.
Again, why didn't they find a body?
That's what I'm saying. You find the body.
Okay, so next theory goes with this one.
I'm still on team foul play here.
Well, okay, so this is the last one, and I think this is the most plausible one. He died in a field from hypothermia and then got ran over by farm equipment.
They were searching the next day.
That's a good point.
But it is May. Like, we live in the country. There was fields. I mean, tractors every day.
Oh yeah, day and night. Yeah, we're in the Midwest here. We farm, and there's tractors literally all day, all night. And May would be like planting season. So like,
but man, that close to a river though.
So listen. Well, there's fields there, so it's fine. That's not a thing. But listen. Okay, so that probably sounds insane, getting ran over by farm equipment, to anybody that's not in the Midwest. But like I said, that there's farm equipment everywhere, and just like the cistern thing, if you Google people getting ran over by farm equipment, it happens a lot. So here's why they think this has happened. Okay. A lot of, like what I said, it's happened before, like people have been asleep in fields, or like homeless people are passed out and they've gotten ran over. And I actually messaged a friend of mine that's a farmer, and I asked him, like, if you were in your tractor, like a big tractor, like, would you be able to see a body? And he was like, absolutely not. Like, I would not know if I ran over anybody.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if you're not from the Midwest, like, combines and tractors are huge. Like, you're way high up there. So I think that's possible. But what I'm saying is, on the search for Brandon Blogspot, the Jeff Hassey is the search manager, and he reported in the blogs that the cadaver dogs hit on a piece of farm equipment that was parked beside a field.
Really?
Yes.
I was going to say, I don't like this theory because the dogs would have hit a tractor.
So it gets better. The owner of that property would not allow a search.
Like on his field?
On his field or his property. And so, you know, we see tractors parked on the side of the roads all the time. The cadaver dogs went right up to it and like gave a 100% like signal, like they're trained to do, for human remains, and right on that tractor. And the farm owner was like, nah. So like, to me, that is so sketchy.
Yeah.
Like, so actually there's like a few farmers in the area, which I am calling you out, farmers in the area, for not letting them search your property. That is the sketchiest thing ever. There is a missing person, and they have went through and methodically searched all of the fields that they can. But like the police and Jeff Hasse have confirmed that there are specific areas that have not been searched because they cannot get permission to go onto that land, because there's a few farmers that have said no, which I understand. Crops, your plants, you don't want people trampling all over them. You don't want dogs probably like scaring your cows and your pigs and stuff. But there's a missing person.
Man.
And if you did run over somebody with your farm equipment, like you didn't do it on purpose.
Right.
Like, why aren't you letting people search? There's a family out here that really wants to know what happened to their kid. Like, come on.
Well, and like
if I think there's a possibility there's a missing person on my property, free game. Like, get out here and look.
I would say there's like less than a 10% chance that if you accidentally ran over somebody that you wouldn't know it. Like at some point on your day, you'd be like...
Yeah, later. Not like in... Like,
in
I don't
minute.
think they could have stopped it.
Sure.
Like when I asked...
Complete accident.
Yeah, like he said like if he's in the tractor, he wouldn't be able to see somebody. But yes, I think they would know later. So maybe one of the farmers figured it out later when they stopped doing their whole farm day and was like, oh crap, like, and then like covered it up. And so that's a theory.
Man, I don't like it. I mean,
like I said, the stranger abduction thing, maybe he wasn't actually abducted by a stranger, but maybe something happened on a private property and they like covered it up. Maybe they didn't kill him themselves. Maybe he died of exposure and they ran over him and just like covered it up because they panicked or whatever. My other question was, which I might just have to call Grace on this. My best friend, Grace, from college, my college roommate is a lawyer now. I need to call and ask her because I don't understand how if a dog hits on your farm equipment for human remains and you're looking for a missing person, how is that not a search warrant for your property?
Yeah, I don't know.
Grace, text me the answer to that because I don't understand.
Man.
So that's like where they are. Those are the theories. What do you think?
I'm team stranger abduction.
You are?
I am. Because the whole tractor thing is a problem to me. Like that's a weird thing. But I'm still saying, why did he say oh shit and then end the call or drop his phone?
So that's the other thing I would like to ask the mom. What kind of oh shit are we talking about?
Scared or...
Yeah, I was like...
Oops, I dropped my phone.
Like, oh shit, I dropped my phone. Or oh shit, like scared? Like,
yeah.
Like did you turn the corner and there's a man with a shotgun standing in front of you
because
you're on private
say,
property?
Yeah.
Or oh shit, I fell in the water?
Yeah.
There's like a lot of different ways you could say it here.
There. But my thing is, like, again, that moment happened. They didn't hear anything else afterwards. His body moved after that moment. Had to have. Or they would be like, yeah, I remember we were talking to him and he got in the river, like silly goose. You know what I'm saying? Like
I think the
his
phone
body
line not
moved.
going dead says a lot. I
100%.
think that if he would have said, like, oh shit, there's a man here with a shotgun, like you would have heard, like, you would have heard some interaction.
Yeah.
I think if it was a stranger abduction, you would have heard some sort of interaction.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Also, the stranger abduction wouldn't have happened by the car. Like his scent went all 3 miles through the field.
That's
He would
what
have
I'm
gotten
saying.
abducted in the middle of a field.
It's the only way that I can explain nobody.
I'm on team, I think he died of exposure. Something was going on, whether he was more drunk than we thought, or he did have a concussion, or maybe you're right and he was on drugs. He was disoriented and he didn't know where he was at. I think he fell in the river and got out of the river, which is what the scent says. And then I think he probably dropped his phone and said, oh shit, dropped my phone, and then was like, who cares? And just kept freaking going because he thought he knew where he was at. He was disoriented. And I think he died of exposure. And then I think so the only thing that gets me, that's making me really mad, is this whole time I've been researching this case, I was on, this is what I thought happened. I thought died of exposure, got ran over by farm equipment. But you're right. They literally searched the next day.
Yeah. The window of time for that to be able to happen is incredibly small.
And I'm saying the window of time, if a tractor, like let's say farmers get started at 5 a.m., and they started searching at I started searching at noon, and they found his car at like 12:30. Like, this is like a little visual, too brutal. But like, there would have been like
It'd
parts.
been fresh. It'd been fresh still.
On the tractor.
Yeah.
It would have been obvious it ran over a body.
The dogs would have found it immediately.
Yeah. So you're right. That's a really short window of time to get ran over by farm equipment. Now, if, like I said, like if he got ran over by farm equipment like later. But the dogs should have been able to go right to a body that day.
Yeah. I don't think he's
and
there.
They did go right to human. They did indicate human remains, but there was nothing there. Like, I think somebody moved him.
Man, I'm telling you what. I think 100% wrong place, wrong woods to be walking through, or wrong field to be walking through at 3 a.m. And somebody didn't want him there. And
yeah, but even trespassing wouldn't explain. You wouldn't have heard it. You would have heard it on the phone.
But like, imagine if you turn around and you see somebody and they hit you in the head or something. You're not going to say anything after that. You wouldn't necessarily be able to hear that on a phone.
He got out, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And then rocked, unconscious. And then.
True. I just got this horrible vision of this creepy farmer with like a shovel.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so Jeff Hassey is the search manager for this whole thing. He's been organizing it, and he's like a retired, I don't remember what he was, retired some form of law enforcement. And he has updated it, and you can read it, all the blog spots, but he has said, like, I'll just read what he said on one of his posts, his blog posts. It says, "This has been an exceptionally difficult and frustrating search. While there have been consistent and reliable indications that human remains are